Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. It's been a couple of weeks between some vacation stuff and then some other prior things I had on my schedule since we've done one of these interviews, but super excited to come to you live here again today after a little bit of a hiatus. We have an incredible guest here with us today, James King Baskin with Outsource Kings. He is someone that I've known over the last couple of years, have got the opportunity to not just connect with him in person, but being in the marketing, in advertising, in branding space, you get to connect with people that are just doing amazing things. And we were just talking about before the episode of looking out for each other and figuring out ways that we can all win. And he's a person that, you know, we don't talk as often as we would probably like. We're both very busy people, and he's a world traveler himself. But at the end of the day, we both do, life together, and we look out for each other. And he's someone that I'm very thankful to call a dear friend. And so he helps people with the back end, and we'll dive into this here in a second, with the back end of basically a virtual call center. So he works with agency owners as well as clients to make sure that you don't have the leaky bucket. When you're getting more leads coming through, you need to make sure that you're obviously taking advantage of those, especially when you're paying for those leads. So James, thanks for coming on today, and appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah. So tell people a little bit about who you are and what Outsource Kings is.
Yeah. So my name is James King Baskin. I'm the founder of Outsource Kings. We've been around for about 5 years now. I was an insurance agent, didn't have time to call my leads, hired virtual assistants to follow up with me, didn't have time to manage my inbox, had the virtual assistants manage my inbox. And we work with agency owners and contractors, construction companies to be specific, and we manage their back office support. So everything from answering Google LSA, everything from, Facebook ad campaigns that send leads in, we're calling the leads, we're answering their inbound phone calls from GMB. So that way they can focus on their trade instead of staying stuck in their business.
Yeah. And that's where most people get stuck, is they get stuck in the business. This is a great service to be able to have on the back end. So that way you're maximizing the influx of inbound leads that you're already getting. And what I like about kind of your story and how the company started is you were in the nitty gritty as an insurance agent, experiencing the pain of the problem that you are now solving with your all solution, but also the fact that you've niched down, right? We've talked about this before. You've been on my podcast, but talk to us about how you kind of came to the conclusion of like, hey, I want to serve a specific problem, provide a specific solution to a specific audience.
Yeah. So always worked as an insurance agent for a while. And I shouldn't say always, but basically had thought all these insurance agents were going to work with me. We didn't even get any until this last year. And I had 5 figures of revenue come in from insurance agents. And it was one of those dilemmas where I'm like, it was like literally like, I think like 10 to 12K of revenue that came in 1 month from insurance agents. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be construction. My coach said that. Only saying, I'm like, I can't not say no to this. And so, the specific problem is still the same that we solve, which is the back end stuff and training people around the business. But we focus on construction. But the reason why I mentioned insurance is I had been in that space and hadn't worked with anyone in that space for like 5 years. And then a couple of years ago, I said a year ago, more like 2 years ago, we had people reach out to us. And then what's funny is like 2 weeks ago, and I just made a post about this, one of the largest direct mail houses in the insurance space, I know the guy. And I'm like, I have his number. One of the big things I'm in the Martell's coaching program is like 5 reach outs a day. I'm like, let me call the guy. I have his number. My clients are telling me they're calling him with orders and they're name dropping me. And I'm like, there's no reason why. And I called the guy up. And so I'm trying to work out a JV thing with him, but it's like it full circle doesn't always happen right away. And the construction people, we had been doing it with a mutual friend, Matt Smith, Australia.
Yep.
And he was the first roofer that we ever worked with right when COVID started. And I saw the need in the construction industry. And I was like, you know what? I want to service this. And we literally, as we talk right now, I've got 2 girls that are cold calling general contractors. And today we finally cracked it where we just set 2 appointments from cold calls for our services for general contractors. My expectations were so unbelievably low. I was like, let's just find out what they say. And if we get an appointment, awesome. And one of my girls is like, hey, this one lady was actually interested in this for one of her home service companies. And I'm like, oh, cool. So we're on the board. So like, I think 2 days in we're now. And we got 2 appointments for construction for our follow-up services and back-end office support.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're practicing what you preach, doing a lot of the stuff from an outbound standpoint that typically obviously you guys are helping people with inbound, but I know there's a variety of different ways you all help people. So can you kind of expand a little bit on some of the different features, packages, things like that you offer and how it helps people?
Yep. I always tell people first, it's easier for me to say what we don't do. We don't do any content creation. We don't do any graphic design. Generalist VA, not really at all. It's back-end support for construction companies. And that looks like answering their phone, managing their CRM, making phone calls for them.
Yep.
And the same thing for agencies that are in the contracting space generally, where we're following up on leads. So it's like leads are coming in. We're going into the job progress, the job Nimbus, the AccuLinks, Building Connect. We're going in, we're finding contractors that, our general contractors need us to contact, the subcontractors for jobs. We're following up on all those people, trying to get them on the job site. And then we're just taking stuff that we've already done, which is scheduling people, booking appointments, confirming appointments, homeowners following up with them after a sales agent for a roofing company went to their house. So we're very broad. Anything involving follow-up or a phone call, we've all but eliminated for some of our roofers, besides like supplies orders and stuff like that. And we're actually working on that. We're working on supplies orders where, we can get the invoice sent. We don't deal with any of the payment, but we get the invoice sent to the construction company and they don't have to order supplies, and we start to learn how to plan jobs. So it's like we're always expanding.
You just named off like all of the biggest headaches that all the roofers typically hate trying to go and deal with on a daily basis. So obviously it's solving a need and a problem that the market has already identified.
Yep.
You've been able to provide solutions to those problems. Now, you just named off a bunch of different stuff, and you're also talking about bringing an outside person into a company that, for the most part, probably has never done something like this before. So to the person that might be hearing this and saying, man, James, like, sign me up yesterday, but I am a little bit concerned about, like, is this going to be too difficult? How do you transfer the phone calls coming in, or talk to us about the process to kind of give people a behind the curtains understanding.
Absolutely. And really also, I think for your audience, I have a gift that I want to give them. If any of them reach out to me on my Instagram, Outsource Kings, or me on Facebook, James King Baskin, and they message me Brandon, I'm going to know it's right, for BOA, either Brandon or BOA. I'll know you're coming from this podcast, Adam's podcast. And what I'm going to give them is our onboarding process. And this can be customizable. I can share it with you. You can make a copy, edit it to make it your own, and put your own stuff in there. And to answer your question, the way that we bring them on board, because we've had people that are $10+ million a year companies that are construction that are like, yeah, we thought about outsourcing, but we're really not capable of what you can do. I literally have, in one of my client calls, I have like one of the best testimonials that I've probably never shared, because I was just like a normal call. And the guy's like, man, I didn't even really realize we could use people all the way from overseas doing all this stuff on the back end, making our calls. And it goes back to the onboarding. So as a free gift to your audience, I'll give them a template of our onboarding thing. I have the document here. I don't want to take away from our call, but I have a whole document that basically makes it so that way we understand the client. Like if I just were to mention a few things that we ask the client, we ask them, how far do they travel for a job? Like what's the radius? Like how far do you travel? Most contractors around a 50-mile radius, like 1 to 2 hours tops that they'll even do. And then we ask them, specifics about their business. What types of roofs do you do? What types of roofs do you not do? Do you do siding? Do you do windows? Do you do gutters? Like for roofers specific. If it's general contractors, we'll ask them other specific question. And then I really try to spend time in their business. What type of CRM do you use? Got it. Use that. Can you log in and show us what that looks like? Okay, got it. You want us to do this and this? We haven't done that before. Do you mind, while we're on this call, showing me how you want us to do that, so that way we can do it just like you do? And I literally shared this with Matt and his wife. His wife works with him, and I shared the onboarding process with them. And I think they pretty confident he uses it for his clients now. And he's got hundreds of roofers that he works with on active time. And it goes back to the onboarding process. We make it so that way they feel heard and understood. And I try to do that when I'm making a sale, because when I'm talking to them, and it's not even really so much, I was telling one of my team members the other day, it's not even so much sales anymore if you're having to service clients, because if you just sell someone to sell someone, you're stuck working with them and you're like, I probably shouldn't have sold that person.
Nightmare.
So exactly. So it's like when I sell someone, I want to make sure that I understand what's going on. I've got full pages of notes, and it's like, cool, I think we're a good fit. I think we can work together. Here's my solution. And then to follow up with that, once we collect payment, all that stuff, we do the onboarding call. I go through even more of it just to try to understand everything from their back end. And then we meet with them once a week. So that's also part of the process, is we meet with them weekly. We have a whole call. If there's updates or changes, they can email us at any given time. And then on the call, they can bring up that feedback as well. And then we can work on that and fine tune it.
Well, I love what you mentioned there, is because I think, like, whether it's marketing agency or the back end admin stuff that you're talking about right there, is so many people want to paint a brush over their clients and say, hey, you're a roofing company, like this is how this goes. But what you've done, and I would imagine, like, obviously you have a great rapport with your clients, probably a really solid lifetime value, probably relatively low churn for the most part. And you probably get a bunch of referrals because you take the time to learn the business. You understand what platforms they're using, how their tech stack is, not just being like, hey, we're going to take this stuff off your plate and oversell what's actually possible. You take the extra time on the front end to figure out how to best serve them. Does that sound about accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's a game changer, right? Like, you are providing a solution. You're not selling a service, right? At the end of the day, like, you are much more than that. You are coming in almost as a consultant of sorts and being like, hey, based on what you're using, here's where we can help. But you probably didn't know about these 3 or 4 other things that are sitting right here too, where we can maximize what you're already utilizing in order to take things to the next level.
Yep. I'm actually taking a note of how you said that, providing a solution, not selling a service. It's really good.
It's the name of the game, man. I love it. So I want to transition a little bit, obviously talking about building authority, which you've certainly built. You've niched down. You've, again, provided a good service, have a team behind you. What are some things that you've done to not only build your authority, but then turn your authority into actually generating more business for your company?
Yeah. I like to always think of the person starting off when I speak on a podcast, because it's very easy to assume like everyone's at a whole nother level kind of thing, or they're like at whatever level I'm at and above, versus like, hey, you know what? There's some people that haven't even made their first sale yet, that probably listen. And I think it's, and it's also one of the key things whenever I look at my business, if things are slow and I'm like, man, I need more leads. I haven't had an appointment in a while, and have very low churn. And then, we'll get hit with a wave and it's like, oh my God, where did this come from? Oh man, I got to make sales now. And going back to what works. And so what that is, and I know I kind of draw that out a little bit, it's going into groups and giving value, helping other people out. It's when you respond to someone's concern. Like, I was just in an epoxy coating group last night, and some guy posted something and I gave a good message kind of thing when I responded. So it's like, when you respond, it's not like a 1-word thing of like what to do. It's like multi-paragraphs followed up with a question. and then getting that person engaged and then creating a conversation. And then if it makes sense, adding that person, messaging that person, because you've already built some value in there
Yeah.
and they're already engaging with you. And maybe you say something like, hey man, just sent you a friend request. Let's talk over chat or something like that, or hey, send you a DM after they've already engaged back and forth. Because why would you just keep replying, long? It's like, hey, and obviously this is trading time versus money. And I think of like, that's why I say the new person, because the new person has a bunch of time.
Yeah. Yep.
And you've painted yourself as an authority right there. It may not be a sale, but I guarantee you, like the full, it's funny. And I know that you probably have a similar experience. I had so many appointments on my calendar when I was making under $10,000 a month, which is like hilarious. And I'm like, I told my team the other day, I was like, I might have a couple appointments a week that are non-client appointments. And I'm like, this is so crazy. Like when I was making under 10K a month, it'd be like 5 to 10 discovery calls a day. And I'm like, how did I even handle that? And, what I want to get back to is basically like giving value in groups. And when you do that and you hop on calls with people remember that. I just talked to a guy yesterday because I made a Facebook post about if anyone needs any help with anything. And it's always so funny. Whenever I talk to this guy, he always says the same thing whenever like he answers his phone. And he called me yesterday, but he always says, James Baskin, Matthew Murray, how can I help you? And it's always so funny because he'll say my name and then he'll say his name, how can I help? And it just throws me off. And this guy, he started his own little coaching program for insurance agents. First day he launched it, 13 people signed up. And he's like, hey man, I got some questions about XYZ. What do you think I should do? And I was able to give him value. I didn't ask for nothing. He's not even really like, I mean, for insurance agents, sure, he's a fit, but I just gave back. And you know what? People remember that stuff. And when you deposit enough of these like micro, helping stuff, one sprouts. I was making an analogy the other day, like for every 10 to 20, one sprouts, like, but you don't know who that's going to be. So you want to always just keep on giving and helping.
Yeah. Well, so I literally did a training like 2 weeks ago in our private Builders of Authority community where I was teaching people how to be a quality value driven member with inside Facebook groups. And literally what you just laid out was much of what I was teaching them as well. Is like, you can spend and waste a lot of time in Facebook groups. Like you can go down rabbit holes and you can do all that stuff, especially if you're just answering like questions on a very surface level, because when it comes to what we do, marketing, advertising, admin stuff, like there's hundreds of thousands of ways that people can get done what they need to get done. But for what you and I have built and for what other people are building with authority, right? We already have the authority behind it. So when we go in and we have the experience and an actual solution to their problem, it's looked at a much higher tier than just being like, yeah, hire a VA. You know what I mean? And so when you answer those questions that way and you do it over and over and over again and people start to see it, it makes having the discovery calls, which the discovery calls turn into, clients after that, obviously at some point, it makes the sale easier versus if you get on that call completely cold, you're kind of screwed. But one thing that I think people miss, and I learned this years ago, is that you're very unlikely in most instances going to get business from the person that makes the original post because their DMs are going to get absolutely freaking flooded. But the real hitters, the people that have the money that are usually going to be your ideal clients, they're sitting and they're lurking and they're always reading the comments. And they may not like the comment or the response you had back, but they'll send you a DM or they'll send you a friend request. And so the real goal is just showing up, providing that value over and over and over again, knowing that it's going to pay off at some point. It might not be immediate, but so many people right now are looking for instant gratification. The delayed gratification along with providing value is really that secret to building significant authority over time and time again.
Yeah. And you also get these people that you help that become like what I call micro cheerleaders. So You get on a call with someone, you help them out, you give them value. They may
Yeah.
not even have a business, they may not even have sales, but now all of a sudden, it's always so funny. Like, I thank people still. I'll get tagged in like, oh, I need a virtual assistant for whatever general things, and I'm like, I off my platform, and I'll tag someone else like that's probably a better fit for it.
Yep.
But thank the people that tag me. Then like they're these like micro cheerleaders, and they're tagging me for like, oh, I need an email VA. Well, we don't even do that, but and I'll respond the thing like, hey, I suggest you go with so and so, and then I'll message the person that tagged me, hey, thanks so much for thinking of me. Here's generally the people that are usually a good fit, but I do appreciate you thinking of me. So I'm not like an asshole to them, but they become these micro cheerleaders just because you helped them out one time 3 years ago. And it's like, it's crazy.
It's wild. Like literally I tell people all the time is like, there are people that, again, they may not even have a business. They may just like be in those Facebook groups for one reason or another, but they may have never even like really talked to you like virtually. You may never even met them or hopped on a call with them, but they like just see other people tagging you. And they're like, okay, I want to like be in that. I want to build a relationship with James or Adam. So I'm going to keep providing value back there because I know at some point I may either need his services or I may want to build a deeper relationship with him. And I want him to know that I've provided so much value to him. That's exactly how I grew my business originally locally here in St. Louis. I was just going in all the local groups, seeing what contractors were getting tagged when somebody was looking for tree service, roofing, etc. And I just started tagging them like, hey, these guys have to be good. They have good reviews. Everybody else is tagging them. And finally people would reach out and be like, hey, Adam, like, thanks for sending me all this stuff. Like, what do you do? Oh, thanks for asking. It's a long game. It's a long game. Well, cool, man. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate you hopping on. I know you're a super busy guy. One, just remind people what they need to do in order to get that free onboarding document. I'm going to send you a message, or if you can just message it to me after, I'm going to take a look at it too, if you don't mind. But remind people of where they can go and find that, or where they can go and message you for that. And then also where to stay connected with you on social media and your company.
Perfect. Yeah. So really, I have one answer for both questions. James King Baskin, if you message me, BOA or onboarding, BOA or Brandon. Sorry, I meant to say Brandon or BOA. I'll send you the onboarding document. And then either Instagram as well, Outsource Kings, my company Outsource Kings on Instagram. If you message me BOA or if you message me Brandon, I will send you that onboarding doc. And that's the best place to find me as well. James King Baskin on Facebook, Outsource Kings on Instagram.
Love it, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Tons of value, and look forward to hopefully syncing up with you here in person at an event coming soon.
Sounds good, man.
And thank you to everybody for tuning in today. Again, we typically do these every single Thursday. This training is sponsored by Go High Level. We have a free and extended 30-day trial. You'll see in the description of this live video where you can go and take advantage of that. We've been using it for 4 years, an incredible software. So go take advantage of that. You also get some free Builders of Authority and personal branding bonuses. And then we do have our Builders of Authority mastermind, which has open enrollment. You'll see all the different amazing features of what you get each and every single month inside of that community. But it's $250 a month or $2,500 for a year. So thank you again for tuning in today. We'll see you next time, and appreciate all of your support.